the rustle of grass, the clatter of hoofs, the whistle of string, and the whiff of a step wind that fell into a hollow stem. All these sounds that surrounded our ancestors. Listening, people learned to play them, inventing a variety of musical instruments. Mobile, lightweight, and convenient for nomadic life. It's a project about musical instruments created by the great nomadic civilization. The violin is called the queen of all musical instruments. Its bewitching sounds, graceful forms have won millions of hearts around the world. It was created by the brilliant masters of Europe, and the great composers wrote their masterpieces for it. Having a centuries-old history, at all times it remained relevant and played a leading role in the orchestra. But where do the roots of the symbol of classical music lead? Where did the very first bow originate? Musical instrument research has been going on for more than a decade. So in the middle of the last century, European scientists came to the conclusion that the ancient Turkic bowed instrument is the progenitor of classical violin. The descendants of nomads, Kazakhs, called this instrument kobyz. There are lots of myths and legends about this instrument. According to Kazakh traditions, kobyz was created in the valley of the Syr Darya river. The nomads associate the appearance of kobyz with the name of Korkyt, a semi-mythical character who is considered the creator of the instrument, the first musician and composer.
На мой взгляд, образ Коркута – это образ всемирного величайшего духа.
In my opinion, the image of Korkyt is the image of the world's greatest spirit, which has many parallels with other famous, say Kambarata of Kyrgyz people. Kambarata is related to the creation of a three-stringed kobyz.
Комуза трехструнного. Легенды о создании инструмента кобыза, например, есть у каракалпаков.
Legends about creating an instrument, kobyz, for example, belong to the Karakalpaks. There is a legend among the Mongols and Tuvans about how the morinhur appeared. Morinhur, this is the same vertically set instrument. The horse head is depicted there. Morinhur, morin, literally from Mongolian, Russian gelding. This is a horse, hur means an instrument.
Инструмент двухструнный.
The instrument is two-stringed, horsehair strings. One is white, the other is black. At the beginning of the century, the Kazakhs also had this white and black string, but now they have completely forgotten. The theory of the real existence of Korkyt is supported by works preserved under his name, which have come down to us from about 7-8 centuries, when their author allegedly lived. One of Korkyt's last kobyz is called Bashpai, which means big toe.
Башпагин өмірінің ақырғы соңында шығарған екен, өзі Korkyt атамыз.
He created Bashpai by the end of his life. When Korkyt was on the shores of the Syr Darya in search of immortality, his sister brought him food. While the brother was eating, his sister's toe touched and then Bashpai was released. That is, in the Kazakh people, girls were treated well and respected, and it was a shame to touch any member of the body of the girl. And at the end of his life, he said when he died tomorrow, he himself commanded that his toe should be pulled out of the grave. More reliable references to Korkyt are found among the ancient manuscripts of Turkic tribes. Researchers believe that the prototype of the legendary old man was the hero of the Oghuz epic, which is called Kitabi dede Korkud, that is, the book of the Grandfather Korkyt. According to scientists, tales and songs in the epic were created no earlier than the 8th century. It describes the events of the time of the capture of the Caucasian tribes by the Oghuzes. In each chapter of the work, there is an old man named Korkud. He is the author of songs and legends. People turn to him for advice and to resolve disputes. In a word, the image of Korkyt is a common Turkic heritage. For example, when we say that Korkyt Ata lived in the Kızıldağ region on the banks of the Syr Darya, that he died there and was buried, that once there was his burial, but it was washed away with water. But when I was in Turkey, they showed us the grave of Korkyt Ata. They proved that he visited the Caucasus, the territory of modern Turkey, and that he was buried there. Whether Korkyt really existed, scientists cannot say. Most likely, this is a collective image. Nevertheless, the wise Korkyt is revered in many Turkic countries. In Kazakhstan, a memorial complex has been installed in the alleged homeland of the creator of kobyz. The center of the architectural ensemble is a monument in the form of 4 kobyz, which look in different directions of the world. The fact is that this monument to Korkud, it was just depicted on the basis of this idea that when the baksa dies, the shaman leaves a kobyz on his grave and he plays. There was such an idea. Here they put 3 stylized images, and between them, different tube lengths. According to the idea of the creators, during the wind, the sound of howling wind should be heard thanks to such a natural organ. Legends connect the name of Korkyt not only with the creation of the instrument, but also with the early religion, Tengrinism. The ancient Turkic tribes had shamans, whose patron is also considered Korkyt Ata.
Есть такие слова записаны, легенда есть. Ölü мест.
There are such words recorded. There is a legend. He is not dead or alive. Is he a patron of Baksa? Saint Korkyt Ata begins with this. Korkyt Ata Saint, not living, not dead, the Lord of the underground waters, or lower waters.
И не мертвый. Владыка подземных вод или нижних вод. Возможно, имеется в виду низовье Syr Daryi. Может быть так.
Perhaps the lower reaches of the Syr Darya are meant. It may be unknown. Aren't you the patron saint of Baksa? In this very phrase, that was recorded. This is a folklore text, which in my opinion was written by Radlov in the steppes. That is, this is one of the legends that clearly shows that Korkyt was associated not only with kobyz, with Baksa. He was the first musician and first Baksa. Since ancient times, kobyz has been actively used for the treatment and conduct of ritual rites, and even today, this tradition has been preserved among many Turkic people.
Это наследие всего тюркского мира, и если у казахов этот инструмент называется.
This is the heritage of the entire Turkic world. And if the Kazakhs call this instrument kobyz, kobyz, then in this case I am holding a Tuvan folk instrument called igil.
Это был инструмент шамана. Это был инструмент человека практикующего.
It was an instrument of a shaman, of a practitioner who does not play music for entertainment. With these sounds, healing, treatment, harmonization, restoration, and everything were performed, but in no case for entertainment.
Для себя.
It was believed that the cause of the disease, not as we have medical reasons now, but the cause of the disease, it was believed that the human soul was stolen. Therefore, it is necessary traveling to other worlds to get this stolen soul. It was kidnapped by evil spirits, so the function of the shaman is that he takes his kobyz and uses it as a transport. That is, he sits on his kobyz and travels to other worlds. Kobyz is one of those instruments that the steps endowed with a special sacred meaning. Its structure models the universe as the Turks represented it. A clear division into three parts symbolizes the upper, middle, and lower worlds. In accordance with these ideas, shamans put on various pendants, feathers of birds, and mounted mirrors on kobyz. All these are symbols of helper spirits and objects that help make a journey into their world. The very form of kobyz, reminiscent of the bucket with which the descendants of the Turks today steer the kumus, is also associated with the most ancient creation myth. According to the myth, the era of chaos existed at the beginning, when the earth was covered with water and day did not replace night. That is, there was virtually no day, it was only night. And then, one fine day, the Most High, Most created everything, the creator of the world, the creator of man, the creator of all living things, decided to stir earth and water with a ladle. As a result of this stirring, such a small island formed on which the first creatures appeared. The descendants of the Bakse, Kazakh shamans, and just musicians who once played kobyz have preserved the instruments of their ancestors to this day. One of them is kept in the Museum of Folk Instruments. This narkobyz belonged to Bakse Jaras, who lived about 5 centuries ago. This kobyz was made in the 16th century from an apricot tree. The case is covered in the skin of one humped camel. Baksejaras was known in the Jambul region and in southern Kazakhstan, in the Jetusu region. His kobyz was later passed down from generation to generation. It was brought to our museum by a descendant of Jaras Bijan Kultasov in 1983. Before him, this kobyz was kept by 6 generations of Bakse of Jaras. In 1942, one of his descendants, named Buraluk, went to the front and did not return, and the instrument passed to his son Jibek, then to Bijan, who gave the kobyz to our museum. This is a copy of the kobyz that belonged to my 5th generation ancestor, Tlep Aspantaule. The original of this instrument is stored in the city of Arkalyk, but it is poorly preserved, so we made a copy. The descendant of the kobyzist Gleb Aspantayolu is a well-known Kazakhstan traveler and explorer Sapar Iskakov. He is literally following in the footsteps of his ancestors for several years now. Aksakal traveled to many countries, searched and bit by bit found artifacts, various evidence, one way or another connected with the Turkic culture and history. In 1985, during excavations in Ukraine, on the left bank of the Dnieper, archaeologists found a musical instrument made of wood. The find was well preserved, which made it possible to identify a kobyz, in it 70 cm long, with strings and a bow made of horsehair.
Сохранился гриф, сохранились колодки, сохранились нарезки под...
The neck, posture, grooves under the keys. The bowstring are preserved, and we also know the shape and size. There has never been such an instrument in Ukraine before.
В целом, это половецкое время, то есть это где-то примерно от XI века нашей эры до 13-го, начала 14 века нашей эры.
In general, this is the era of the Kipchaks, that is the period from the 11th century to the beginning of the 13th, 14th century. According to experts, the cemetery dates back to the late 13th century AD.
То есть это где-то 13 век нашей эры.
Соны біз әдейі барып Украинаға, жаңағы археологиялық мұражайға кіріп,
We went to Ukraine. The archaeological museum unpacked it, calculated everything, measured it, then went and made this kobyz. This is the kobyz of the 13th century, the end of the 12th century, the beginning of the 13th century. But how did kobyz was found so far from its place of creation, in a country with a completely different way and different music? The answer lies in the history and common ancestors who roamed almost 1,000 years ago from the lower Danube to Lake Balkhash in southeastern Kazakhstan. According to the name of these tribes, steppes of Eurasia in this period, historians call Deshti Kipchak, Kipchak steppe.
Оның алдында ол жер Oghuz даласы деп аталған. 10-шы ғасырға шейін. Oghuz. Oghuzдар енді мына...
Even earlier, until the 10th century, these lands were called Oghuz steppes. The current descendants of the Oghuz are Turks, Turkmens, Azerbaijanis, and Gagauz. All Turkic peoples speak the Kipchak language. Many of them consider themselves direct descendants of Kipchaks. Among them are Kazakhs, Uzbeks, Kyrgyz, Karkalpaks. Even the Caucasian people, for example, Nogais, Kumyks, Karachais, Balkars, Crimean Tatars, Kipchaks in Hungary. In addition, when I was in Ukraine and Belarus, I noticed that many there call themselves descendants of the Polovitsians, and the Polovitsians are the Kipchaks.
Половцлардың тұқымыз дейді. Половцы қыпшақтар.
According to photographs and measurements, Almaty masters recreated the Kipchak kobyz. Questions remained to the 3 holes on the head. After all, everyone knows that the kobyz has only 2 strings. Why was the 3rd hole made?
Енді мынау құлағының әртүрлі 3 тесігінің өлшемі, мынау соңғы тесігі.
The 3rd hole is different in size and location. It is located closer to the other 2, so we suggested that it was used to fasten to the horse saddle, because before the nomads spent all the time on horses. Therefore, we tied the strap to this hole.
Үшіншісіне осылайына қайыспен байлап қойдық.
The reconstruction of this instrument is a joint work of masters and scientists. So historians and archaeologists have suggested that according to the descriptions, some of the details of the kobyz were bone, and the body of this particular instrument was made of ash, one of the strongest tree species.
Мынау шегін ұстап тұратын тұғырын бұны сиырдың мүйізінен жасалған. Мына мүйізден жасалған. Бетін ешкінің терісінен тарттық.
We made this string holder from a cow horn. This is a horn plate. The body was covered with goat skin. Thus, this instrument is assembled. After that, The musicians tried to play it. Check the sound. They were satisfied. Some even said that the instrument somehow gives more sound than its small body allows. They were very surprised at this. The master's task during the reconstruction of the archaeological find is not only to restore the appearance, but also to try to endow the copy with the properties of the original. Therefore, we worked on the sound separately. Several times I had to change the strings and modify the bow. The bow was broken in this place. Only the handle was preserved. It lay next to the instrument. It even preserved such a thread. We restored the pattern on the handle and the bow itself. I don't know how long it was, but in general, the bow should not be longer than the instrument itself. So we determined the appropriate length. Let's listen to how it sounds. Kazakh scientists discovered an even older version of kobyz in 2014 in the east of the country. In the Kazakhstani part of the Altai Mountains, a shaman warrior was found buried with a sword and a musical instrument, which cannot be called kobyz with confidence due to almost 1,500 years of age. Rather, this stringed bow instrument is a common progenitor of kobyz and dombra. The find was also given for restoration, so that everyone could have an idea of what an ancient instrument looked like. You should also pay attention to the best kobyz on the dede Kipchak steps, strokes and smokes from the beams of the concave flaps, the outer body, covering the inner surface of the mystic groove. The great interest is provoked by musicians in the segment of the sounding of the ancient sounding instruments. Archaic kobyz, with strings from the horsehair, is used in ethno-folk ensembles. It is remained in ritual practice, which is kept by many descendants of Turkic people.
Там нет такого кристально чистого, абсолютно такого
The sound here is clear and nothing superfluous. Not like human voice, it is rich in overtones and extra sounds, making it the purest music for us. By the way, what is the difference between Kazakh and European music? Are often asked. Historical development comes with clearing sounds, and we have rich melodies from the beginning, so we don't have to clean. Non-Kazakh music comes to life as ours try to change it or remove what they find unnecessary. There is an idea that by playing the musical instrument and imitating the melody, especially with the kobyz, one can discover the future of the person. That is, playing kobyz, you have the opportunity to discover your destiny, because the instrument always speaks the truth, and the kobyz melody cannot be a lie. Perhaps the future with the help of kobyz can no longer be predicted, but it can perfectly tell about the past. The deep, rich sounds of an ancient instrument can immerse the listener in an easy trance, when pictures from the life of dede and Kipchak pop up before my eyes. Kobyz is an instrument that has become an important symbol of Turkic culture. It not only laid the foundations of music among nomadic people, but also caused the emergence of many folklore and literary works, rites, and rituals, which can be treated differently, but their influence on the life and culture of nomads cannot be denied today.